Imagine this. You and your closest friends are hiking through a dense, dark forest. The trees stretch endlessly, their branches clawing at the sky. The air is thick, suffocating. Something feels off. Every shadow shifts. Every rustling leaf sounds like a whisper. You tell yourself it's just the wind. You couldn't be more wrong. This is The Ritual, a horror film that blends folk terror, psychological horror, and primal fear. A trip meant to honor a friend turns into a waking nightmare. Luke, Phil, Hutch, and Dom set out on a hiking trip in Sweden's remote wilderness to honor their late friend, Robert. But when Dom injures his knee, they make a choice they will regret for the rest of their lives. A shortcut through the woods. As they trek deeper, the trees grow taller, the path more twisted. Something is wrong here. Then they find it. An abandoned cabin stands in a clearing, its walls marked with ancient symbols, crude carvings etched deep into the wood. Inside, the air is thick with rot, and in the attic, a grotesque effigy, a limbless human torso with a deer skull for a head, arms raised in worship. They should have run. Instead, they spend the night. That night, the forest reaches into their minds. Each of them experiences terrifying, vivid nightmares, not just dreams, but visions. Luke finds himself back in the liquor store, reliving the moment he failed to save Robert from a violent mugger. Phil sleepwalks, but not aimlessly. He kneels before the effigy, arms raised, chanting in a voice that isn't his own. Dom sees his wife calling to him, but when he reaches her, her face melts away into darkness. They wake up in panic. Some of them are covered in strange wounds, but the real horror, their footprints lead in circles. They're trapped, and the symbols from the cabin? They're everywhere, etched into the trees, carved into the rocks. Then they hear it. A low, guttural growl that makes the earth tremble. Something ancient is out there, watching, hunting. Phil is the first to go missing. They find him hanging from a tree, gutted, his ribcage split open like a sacrifice. Panic sets in. The group splinters, fear taking hold. Then Hutch vanishes. They find him impaled high up in a tree, his body twisted in an impossible pose. Their fear turns to sheer terror. Something is toying with them. Then they see it. A towering, inhuman figure moving between the trees. Antlers like a god, eyes like burning pits. Its body, a monstrous fusion of beast and human. Its limbs grotesquely long, its fingers ending in claws. It isn't just a creature, it's a god. Dom and Luke stumble upon a village hidden deep within the forest. At first, they think they've found safety, but the villagers kneel in reverence, not to them, to it. They worship the Jotun, a descendant of Loki, a Norse deity of the wilderness, a god that demands worship, a god that punishes the weak. Dom is chosen for sacrifice. Tied to a wooden structure, he screams as the Jotun emerges from the dark. It peers into his mind, forcing him to see his worst fear. Then, it impales him on its antlers, dragging him away into the night. Luke, forced to kneel, is given a choice. Submit, worship, or be torn apart. But Luke is different. Unlike the others, he bears a mark. The creature sees something in him, a survivor, a broken man, someone who could join the cult. But Luke refuses. He fights back. Using fire, he sets the village ablaze. The cultists scream. The Jotun roars. A final chase begins. Luke, bleeding, running, desperate. The creature pursues him, its massive form breaking through trees like twigs. Then, he sees it, the edge of the forest. The creature lunges, but it stops. It can't leave. Luke stands at the tree line, panting, shaking, staring at the god that almost took his life. It roars in rage, a sound that shakes the heavens. But it cannot follow. Luke stumbles into the open fields, free, but forever changed. As the sun rises, he laughs. A broken, hollow laugh. Because he knows. Something is still watching, and it always will be. The ritual isn't just a monster movie. It's a story about guilt, grief, and survival. About the primal fear of the unknown. And about what happens when you venture too deep, and something ancient decides you don't belong. So, the next time you go hiking, are you sure you're alone? Title: Never take a shortcut through the woods. Description: What starts as a tribute hike turns into a living nightmare. 4 friends enter the Swedish wilderness. Only one makes it out. A hidden cult, a towering god, a shortcut they should have never taken. This is the ritual, and this is why you never wander too deep into the woods. Subscribe for more horror breakdowns. Comment below. Would you survive the Jotun?